All right, let me hasten on. We've talked about the table. Let me talk to you about the door a bit. By this, I do mean the front door. It's both literal and symbolic. It's a challenge to think about how you enter your house when you come home from work or from anything. Now, I told you, I feel like I'm pretty good at the table stuff. I can point to some real wins, and I enjoy getting to do it. This next thing that I'm trying to teach you, it punches me in the mouth every single time, it feels like. I'll just tell you. The idea of how do you enter the living room when you've just finished intense phone meetings in your home office? How do you walk into the kitchen when you've been out in the garage under the hood of the car all evening and the vehicle still isn't fixed? What have you created a situation where each day when you pull into the driveway, you come home from work, and what if you've created a situation where your kids get maybe a bit of a smile on their face because they hear the truck come in the drive? Or a world where your wife hears you walking up the steps and she thinks, yes, he's home. Maybe because you bring excitement or fun or a calming or peace when you walk in. Men, we control the atmosphere in our homes. As I just heard somebody talk about this probably just a few months ago, and I've started to work at this. I've realized, this is tough for me. I walk in from work and I'm thinking about every part of that and the problems that are left to solve, and if I'm going to have to do some more work tonight to stay caught up for tomorrow, and I've got a million things on my mind, right? And I walk in, and I'm just now starting to get the idea of what does my kid see? What does my wife think? What kind of atmosphere am I creating? Is it, things might get a little more intense. Dad's walking up the steps. Or is it, this is going to be great. Dad's walking up the steps. The thing is, we get the ability to choose that, right? We get the ability to alter that atmosphere. When we think about the door, it might be your front door. It might be your living room doorway that you walk in. I'm talking about after work, but it can be at any time during the day. Right? Think about this. If you were to sum up your typical entrance into your house with an emotion or a characteristic in one word, what would it be? Just think about that for a minute. If a typical emotion or characteristic, one word, were to sum up how you walk into your family, how you walk into the house, what might it be? Maybe it's happiness. Maybe it's frustration. Maybe it's tired, wore out. Could be energetic. Peaceful, stability. What would it be? Next question, more important question. If the word you just thought of isn't what you wanted, what would you like the word to be? And it doesn't all have to just be hype. It doesn't have to be a party necessarily. Maybe that's you, and maybe that's what your family needs. But maybe it's peace and calming. Maybe it's a sense of now everything is stable and okay. The thing is, we get to choose. Yeah. It's not an easy choice all the time. I'll first to admit that. But we do. We are the man. We are the spiritual leader. And this is part of how we can lead. Using the door as a tool in leading my family means that I choose to create the atmosphere I desire when I walk in the room. All right now, I'll confess to you, I am bad at this. See, I start out with no natural skills here. You may have noticed I am not the most exciting guy on this campground. I get that, right? I've got a decent streak of melancholy to my personality. I'm pretty analytical. I spend a lot of time thinking about how to solve the next problem that I see. And these things that I'm talking about have served me well in many areas, but they are not good for my face. If I had $1 for every time in my life that somebody walked up to me and said, "What's wrong?" when there was absolutely nothing wrong, I would have quite the Father's Day offering this year. How do you like that plug for men's ministry, by the way? Thank you very much. Thank you. That's my natural state. I get it. I'll just tell you, my wife and I have had plenty more fights than we should have because she started with, "What's wrong?" Well, there wasn't anything then, but there is now. So I typically walk in the front door. I'm still trying to solve the day's problems, but I've realized that that's not conveying to my family what I want to convey, and so it's got to change. I'm not suggesting that I should be dishonest or hide things, but it's about what you want to present at the moment. Last night in our service, I could have stepped up in front of everybody in worship service and said something like, hey, thanks for coming to Young Men's Encounter. I'm sorry, but it looks like it's going to rain all weekend. It's going to get really frustrating. We're not going to get to do a lot of things we wanted to do. It kind of stinks. I could have said that, and it would have been true. But what would I have been doing to the atmosphere there? Right? So instead, I choose to say things like, hey, we're so glad you're here. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic time at Young Men's Encounter. We're going to do some ridiculously fun things, and we're going to get into some great discussions, and God's going to meet with us in a powerful way, which is also true, but with the advantage of being helpful. Right? More than one thing can be true at the same time. You can have a frustrating day, and you can show up as walking through the door as the man that your family needs you to be. They both can happen at the same time. Okay. And so being able to recognize that, I am preaching to myself, I would tell you. But being able to recognize that and then be able to do something about it. How do you first encounter your family? How do you come through the door? Are you sunshine or are you a storm cloud? Yeah. Are you an agent of peace or are you a wager of war? Do the people you're trying to lead feel like you're happy or that you're annoyed by their presence? That has hit me between the eyes right there. And I fear there have been way too many times that my kids have felt like they were an annoyance because I said, not now, son. I can't do that right now, honey. That'll have to wait. Daddy's working right now. I've got issues right now. Yeah. Now, those things are true. We've got all those things on us. Like, that's real. No one's saying quit your job. Wish we could, right? No one's saying throw out the response. No, none of that. But what if I just start getting serious about saying, you know what? I've driven up in the driveway. It seems like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Let me sit here for a minute. In one moment, I'm going to walk through that door. And I'm right now, I'm getting in mind, I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes. This is going to be the best part of the day. I'm going to walk through that door, and I'm going to give them what they need. If it's hugs, I'm a hug machine. Let's get it, right? If it's peace, boy, everything's going to be all right. Honey, let me take the baby for a few minutes, right? If it's happiness and excitement, I'm going to kick the door open and holler a war whoop. Whatever it takes. But I can take 5 minutes and say, let me think about how I come through a door. Let me think about what people's first reaction is to me. Let me think about how I see them and they connect with me. And again, the door doesn't have to be literal. I'll give you an example of this. I was picking up my daughter from school, I think this was last week. I parked the car, I walk across the street, the sidewalk there, and I can see all the way across their playground the door that the kids are going to come out of. It's very routine. She's in the 3rd grade. Teacher walks them out and so on. So I get there kind of in my position. She can see me. She knows that this is where we come to and whatever, if I'm picking her up. I see the teacher and the first student or two walk out the door. They're 3rd graders. It takes them a while to do everything, right? So I know in my mind it's going to take them a minute to get out. Jared's going to see me. She's going to tell her teacher, goodbye, there's my dad, and she's going to come trotting across the way. And so I'm super efficient, you see? And so I tell myself, self, you got about 2 minutes. There's time to return at least one more email. Right? All I'm doing is waiting. Stupid me. Next thing I know, my face is in this and my mind is in this. And from about 6 feet away, I hear, hey, Daddy. And my first thought was, oh, man, I did it again, right? Because when she came running up, I bet she did not think, look at my hardworking daddy. buying those groceries for me by making that money. This pretty dress I have on is because of what he's typing on that phone. That's not what she thinks. When she sees my head down and my face buried in the screen when I was there to pick her up, what can my kid think? But this is kind of inconvenient for my dad, and it's just a blip in his day to stop by and get him. Like, it's got to be what she thinks. And in a moment, I thought, you did it again, Mark. But she came with that exuberant, hey, Daddy. And in a moment, as my friend likes to say, I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. And when I heard that, I turned it on and I gave her back the best, hey there, Jera, how are you? And I got in the mode in a moment, right? We walked back to the car with my arm around her. I did all I could to plug into every third grade story that was rapid fire out of her mouth all the way back home and inside. So I don't get it right. I don't always get it. I'm working hard at this and I fail more than I get it right. But being able to recognize, I got the ability to change things here. I have the ability to do this. It matters. If you need to go back into work mode a bit later, you can do that. But be present when you come through the door. Now that I'm starting to see it, you know how like once you start seeing something like you see it everywhere, you've never seen a lifted truck in the color that you just bought. And the minute you do it, it's like the whole world saw you and copied you in a day, right? You realize they didn't. You didn't have a file for that in your mind, but now you do. Your mind starts picking those out. Once you start doing this, that kind of happens. I'll tell you one more story. I know we just got a minute or two left. I usually walk in. I pastor in Lincoln. I get to church on Sunday morning, usually 30 or 40 minutes before church is to start. Usually when I walk in, our worship team is already there doing their rehearsal, their sound check, and so on and so forth. I was eating lunch with one of the guys in our church a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago. And middle of the week, I was eating lunch with him. And he says, hey, is everything okay? He said, I know on Sunday morning you came walking in and I could just tell something was really wrong. Remember all those dollars I wish I had? I said, no, I was good. There wasn't anything wrong. I'm all right. And I started realizing, like on Sunday morning, it is game on, right? I've been finishing up my message prep. I've been up for hours by the time I get to the church. I am locked in. I have been with Jesus. I am a man on a mission. I'm fired up about what God might do today. I'm looking for what kind of guests we're going to have. I'm hoping that person that's in our church that's been battling disease is going to rise up in faith. I'm thinking about all of these things, right? My mind is going 1,000 miles an hour. And I'm analytical, I'm thoughtful, and so on. And it dawned on me there with what he's saying. When I walk in the door, though, what people see is not, boy, look at my good pastor. He's so locked into what's going on. This is going to be a great day. What they see is, man, something must be wrong. Did I do something? Was I on the yard mowing schedule? Did I miss it? Right? Is there something that somebody should have been doing? Is he mad at his wife? What's going on? Right? And when I had to say to Chuck, man, no, there wasn't anything wrong. It's like, there it is again. There it is again. Last several Sunday mornings, I get to the parking lot, and I sit there for a second in my car. And I just got to do a little self-talk. Mark, I'm getting ready to blast through that door. You think you're all geared up, and you don't really want to say a lot of words because you're ready to preach. Those people need to see their pastor, happy to see them, and excited about Jesus. I ain't putting on any fronts. I am excited about Jesus, and I am happy to see them. But I have to put myself in that gear to walk through the church door now with a smile on my face saying, man, it's so good to see you. I'll tell you what, whenever you guys are here early like this and I walk in on the music team praying, I know it's going to be a great day. Hey, man, how are you? And I've got to make myself do that because for some of you, if you're Josh Williams, that exudes out of you, right? Like, you won't go home without him selling you a shirt just because he just... See what I mean? Like, it just happens. It just happens. It doesn't happen for me. But I got to think about, how do I come through the door? In that case, it's for my church. But how do I come through the door for my kids? How do I come through the door for my wife? How do I come through the door?